Hello, sports fans. It is Thursday, February the 28th, the year 2013, and as usual, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. Before we get to our NBA State of the Union, let's go through some scores of note from last night. Let's start in the NBA. Let's start at Madison Square Garden, where Mr. Curry of the Golden State Warriors had an unbelievable shooting display. 54 points for Curry in the Garden last night. He was on fire. One problem: the Warriors lost to the Knicks. The Knicks win the game. They pull it out. Carmelo Anthony, a nice game. J.R. Smith, a couple of big shots. Tyson Chandler all over the backboards last night. And the Knicks pull out a close game against Golden State. Golden State, a bunch of turnovers in the last minute or two of that game really cost them. But Curry, what a shooting display this young man put on. This guy can shoot. Tremendous performance by him. David Lee was suspended for this game because of his little incident in Indiana the night before, so no David Lee last night. The Knicks get the job done. I don't love the way the Knicks are playing, but I don't want to get on them too much after a win. But they are not firing on all cylinders, the Knicks. They do pull out the win last night, but Curry, just an amazing performance last night. I hope you caught that shooting exhibition. It was impressive. Also last night, Memphis beats Dallas. Dallas is all but finished. Dallas had a 38-19 lead at the end of the first quarter and lost. Dallas is done. They are not making the playoffs. Nowitzki looks old. Dallas, they won the championship a couple years ago. They left their game back there a couple years ago. They are done. I don't know why they ever got rid of Tyson Chandler a couple years ago after they won the title. I know money was a concern, but come on. Mark Cuban has more money than anyone. He could have finagled a way to get Tyson Chandler back on the team. They let him go to the Knicks. Dallas has not been the same since. Nowitzki is always hurt. He looks old. Dallas is done. You can forget about this growing your beards like Dallas is doing until they get to 500. Their beards are going to be down to the floor and swing around the block before they get to 500. Dallas is finished. Goodbye, Dallas. Also last night, Milwaukee went into Houston and beat Houston. Nice back-to-back wins for Milwaukee. They did the Texas two-step. They beat Dallas and Houston. Very impressive back-to-back for Milwaukee. I didn't think they had that in them. And Houston, what's going on with them? They've dropped a couple in a row. They blow a 17-point lead to Washington. Then they come back home. They're winning this game against Milwaukee most of the way, and they let the game slip away at the end. Monte Ellis, a big shot at the end of this game, a three-pointer to win it with no time left. So nice back-to-back Texas two-step by Milwaukee. And Houston, they're starting to slide. Houston is only 2.5 games ahead of the Lakers. Lakers have Minnesota tonight. Lakers are going to win that game. They're only going to be 2 games behind Houston. Houston is in danger of not making the playoffs. Lakers are nipping on their heels. Atlanta went into Utah and beat the Jazz. Utah's another team slipping. I'll tell you, the bottom half of that West is really slipping. Golden State, Utah, and Houston, as I just mentioned, all slipping. The Lakers have a chance to catch all 3 of those teams, so we got to keep an eye on that. So Atlanta beats Utah in Utah. Atlanta is back to playing some nice ball. How about Phoenix last night? Phoenix goes into San Antonio and beats the Spurs in overtime. How in the world did that happen? Phoenix is one of the worst teams in the league. San Antonio is the best record, just coming off an unbelievable road trip. And they lose to the Suns. Unbelievable. So nice job by the Suns. I'll throw them a little crumb there. Spurs obviously took the night off. I mean, they're obviously coming back from a road trip. They thought they could just, throw their uniforms on the court and beat the Suns. Not so fast. Suns clip them last night. So that was kind of some of your stuff in the NBA. Over to your college basketball we go. Very interesting stuff in college basketball. Georgetown in 2 overtimes beats UConn in an absolute thriller of a game. Porter, coast to coast in double overtime, gets the game-winning layup in just a thriller of a game. UConn actually, at the end of regulation, hits a big 3 to tie the game. UConn in double overtime is actually up 6 points, and Georgetown reels off the last 7 to win the game. Georgetown on absolute fire. UConn can't go to the postseason tournament because they're on probation. This game was tremendous last night. Also last night, New Mexico at home in the pit, which is just about, they're unbeatable there. They beat San Diego State. UCLA at home at Pauley Pavilion beats Arizona State in overtime. Arizona State really needed that win. They lose in overtime. Here's a theme of last night. A lot of teams that needed to win lost. We'll get to some of them in a second. Texas beat Oklahoma. What in the world was Oklahoma doing last night? They had a 14-point lead in this game in the second half. They blow the game to a bad Texas team. That was a bad loss by Oklahoma. Penn State shocked number 4 Michigan. Penn State was 0-14 in the Big Ten. They beat number 4 Michigan. I mean, what's going on here? Is the world upside down? Penn State with a big win. They stormed the court in Penn State. Michigan cost themselves a 1 seed with that loss. Now some of the teams that really blew it last night. Georgia Tech beat Maryland. How in the world does Maryland lose to Georgia Tech? Maryland's a bubble team at best. They lose to Georgia Tech. They're not going to the dance. USC beat Arizona. Now, Arizona's in the tournament. I don't like the way Arizona plays sometimes. They play a lot of close games. Didn't like the way they played last night against USC. Baylor snuck out a game over West Virginia. Baylor needed that game. They barely won. Here's a couple other teams that hurt their tournament resume. Arkansas lost to LSU. I mean, come on, Arkansas. You can't lose to LSU. LSU's playing sleeper now all of a sudden. LSU beat Alabama and Arkansas back-to-back games. Could knock both of those teams out of the tournament. And Colorado beat Stanford in Stanford. Good night, Stanford. Stanford has had their chances to make their mark. They have not done it. They are headed to the NIT. So a lot of teams last night that needed wins like Arizona State and Stanford and Arkansas and Maryland all fell flat on their face last night. I mean, does anyone want to go to the tournament? These were all winnable games for these teams. All these teams lost, so they're in trouble. All right, so that was some of your college basketball last night. Very interesting night in college basketball. Over to your NHL. Montreal continues to be on fire. They go into Toronto and beat Toronto. Just an incredible job by Montreal this year. They are playing lights-out hockey. They can't lose right now. Philadelphia at home handles Washington. Nice win by Philly. They're starting to turn it around. Just when you think Washington's starting to turn it around, they throw in a clunker against Philly, so I don't know where Washington is at this point. LA 2, Detroit 1 in Los Angeles. Here comes LA. They've awoken from their slumber. Here come the Kings. And Anaheim continues their winning ways. They beat Nashville in Anaheim 5-1. Anaheim on fire this year as well. So that's kind of some of the stuff you had last night. Pretty interesting night. A lot of wild stuff, a lot of wild games, a lot of teams that, needed the game and lost. A couple things going on in the NBA, like Phoenix beating the Spurs. What's that all about? All right, without further ado, let's go to our NBA State of the Union. We're going to go worst to first, a little synopsis of each team and their record. We're going to start in the West first this week. We're going to start with number 15, work our way down. Number 15, Sacramento. They are 20-39. It looks like they're moving to Seattle. I mean, so they're a lame duck franchise. They're actually playing decent at home. Fans are still coming out considering they're moving to Seattle. I mean, they're not selling out every game. But considering they're moving, the fans are showing their loyalty, still coming out. Here's the problem I have with Sacramento, among others. They draft Robertson this year in the first round of the draft, a very high pick. I think they picked him 5th. They pick him over Lillard and Drummond, who have both turned out to be good players on other teams. So what does Sacramento do halfway through the year? They trade Robinson to Houston. Why? Why would you give up on a young player like that who you just picked 5 over some really good players that are now good in the NBA? You give up on him after half a season, you ship him to Houston? I mean, is Sacramento purposely trying to lose? Terrible job by the Maloofs in Sacramento. This used to be a really good team. Remember when Sacramento was good, like a decade ago, when they were challenging the Lakers? What in the world has happened to this franchise? Number 14, Phoenix. They are 20-39. They did beat San Antonio last night. Good job by them. Here's the stat for you on Phoenix. This year, Phoenix has lost more games by 25 or more points than they have in the last 11 seasons combined. Think about that. Number 13, New Orleans, 20-39. Davis starting to play well. I do like their core of young players with the young Rivers and Gordon and Davis. They're going to have another high pick this year. I'd like to see them get some more fans in the seats there in New Orleans. They still got a long way to go, but they can build around the young Davis, who I think is a franchise player. Number 12, Minnesota. They are 20-34. Too many injuries. Love out. No love, no wins. Let's move on. Number 11, Dallas, 25-32. They are not making the playoffs. They lost to LA at home, Milwaukee at home, and then they blow a 20-point lead to Memphis last night. Goodbye, Dallas. You had your championship 2 years ago. Enjoy that. You are going nowhere this year. Dallas headed to the lottery. Number 10, Portland. They are 26-31. They are falling apart. They are soft. They are a bad road team. They can play at home. They are an atrocious road team. I am very disappointed in Portland. I understand they have no bench, but their starting five should be better than this. They have a nice starting five. Very disappointed in Portland's play. Number 9, the Lakers. They are 28-30. They're 2.5 games behind Houston. They're only about 3-4 games behind Utah. They're only about 5 games behind Golden State. They can catch these teams because these other teams are not playing so great. Now, the Lakers are still 2 games under 500 themselves at 28-30. Lakers are still not playing good ball. Here's the good thing you like about the Lakers. 4th easiest schedule in all the NBA. I think the Lakers sneak into the playoffs in one of those bottom seeds. The writing's on the wall, though. They're going to have to play either San Antonio, Oklahoma City, or the Clippers without home court. They're not going to beat any of those teams. I think they do slip into the playoffs, though. Those right now would be your teams out of the playoffs. Let's go to the top 8. Number 8, Houston, 31-28. Coming off 2 bad losses. Like I said before, they blow a 17-point lead to Washington. Then they get clipped at the buzzer last night to Milwaukee at home. 2 terrible losses. Overall, I do like Lynn. I love Harden. James Harden is playing unbelievable ball this year. McHale's done a nice job. They are in danger right now, Houston. The Lakers are nipping at their heels. Number 7, Utah, 31-27. Utah are starting to slip. They've lost a bunch of games in a row. Here's what you don't like about Utah. 5th hardest schedule in the NBA, and they don't play well on the road. Utah is in trouble. Number 6, you have Golden State, 33-25. Golden State slipping. I mean, they had the unbelievable performance by Curry last night. They still lost. They do have a lot of home games left. Bogert, who got back in the lineup, is now back out of the lineup with back spasms. Got to keep an eye on that. They were flying early in the year. Golden State, they have slipped way, way back now. Number 5, Denver. They are 37-22. Ty Lawson is having an amazing season this year. Denver virtually unbeatable in Denver with that altitude. I like George Karl's team. They hustle. They are a real scrappy team. They always play hard. Tremendous home team. Denver, very surprised team this year. Number 4, Memphis. They are 38-18. They've won 8 in a row. They trade Rudy Gay. You think they're going to struggle? They have won 8 in a row. The ball is moving more without Rudy Gay. I mean, yeah, Rudy Gay's a nice player, but he takes a lot of shots. The ball becomes stagnant with him. They move the ball a lot better now. Won 8 straight. Memphis having a really nice year. Number 3, the Clippers. They are 41-18. Good news, Paul and Griffin back healthy. They can beat anyone when those two are playing at the top of their game. Here's the bad news. They're in the 3rd slot right now in the West. They're probably going to stay there. I don't think they're going to jump Oklahoma City or the Clippers. That means in the playoffs, eventually they're going to have to play Oklahoma City and San Antonio, both without home court. That's a bad recipe right there, so keep an eye on that. Number 2, Oklahoma City. They're 42-15. They blow everyone out but Miami. They won't be judged until the playoffs. I think they're still going to miss Harden come playoff time. Martin is nowhere near the player Harden is. Oklahoma City can beat anyone except Miami. I don't think they can get over the Miami hump. I've seen them play Miami twice this year, including a couple weeks ago in Oklahoma City. Miami handled them. Oklahoma City can't get by Miami, but they can beat everybody else. Number 1, San Antonio, 45-14. They had a 7-2 road trip before they lost inexplicably at home to Phoenix last night. How about this stat for the Spurs? 16 straight years they've had a winning record on the road. I mean, is that not impressive? 16 straight years you have a winning record on the road in the NBA. Not easy to do. That is your Western Conference. Over to the East we go. 15-1. Charlotte Bobcats at 13-44 in your 15 slot. Listen, they have Mullins, Walker, Kid Gilchrist. They're going to have a high pick this year. You have a couple decent players to build around, but Charlotte, do you have any faith Michael Jordan as an executive can turn this around? I don't. Number 14, Orlando, 16-42. They've lost 16 of 18 games, and they lost to Charlotte at home. Orlando is an abysmal team. Just an abysmal team. Number 13, Washington, 18-38. 10-3 their last 13 home games. They're down 17, and they beat Houston a couple nights ago. They are showing some signs of life since Wall got back into the lineup. They are playing better defense. They will fight you. Like I said, 10-3 the last 13 home games. Are playing better, but they still had a miserable start to the season. Still need a lot of work. Number 12, Cleveland. They are 20-38. Won 8 of 10 against the East. beat Chicago the other night, which was a nice win, and they didn't have Irving. I mean, they've given Miami a scare, too, this year. I mean, I do like Irving. They have a couple nice players, but just like, Washington, a long way to go. Number 11, Detroit. They are 23-37. Here's a stat with Detroit. Lost 13 games when they're leading by 10 points or more. Think about that. They've had a 10-point lead or more in 13 games and lost them. That's not a good stat, Detroit. Number 9, Toronto. They're 23-35. There's hope with Rudy Gay. You can build around him. Toronto is not a total dog, but they're not a playoff team either. I do think they can build around Rudy Gay, though. Number 9, Philadelphia, 22-33. No Bynum still. Doug Collins the other night went off on Philly. They got blown out at home by Orlando, and Doug Collins said the team showed no effort. That's not a good sign when you have no effort against a bad Orlando team in your building. And Philly is not out of the playoff race, although they're slipping. They're about 5 games behind Milwaukee now, and Bynum is not even close to being back. What a terrible, terrible season by Philadelphia. Who would ever think Bynum was not going to play at all up until this point? And Doug Collins can't catch a break. He's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. He coaches the Bulls before they become the Bulls with Phil Jackson. I mean, he was there a little early for that team. Then he coaches the Wizards when Michael Jordan is past his prime. Now he takes a job with the Sixers, and he can't even get Bynum healthy. Oh, Doug Collins just can't catch a break. And remember in the Olympics, his USA team got robbed against the Soviet Union. I mean, they even got robbed of the gold medal. So Doug Collins, absolutely no luck. All right, so those would be your teams out of the playoffs right now. Here are your top 8 in the East. Number 8, Milwaukee. They're 28-28. They beat Dallas and they beat Houston. Nice Texas two-step they pulled off. Here's the problem I have with Milwaukee. They can score. They play no defense. Other than Sanders, nobody plays defense. They just want to run up the court and shoot the ball. Jennings likes to shoot. Ellis likes to shoot. They have a bunch of guys that want to shoot and score points. Nobody plays defense except Sanders. Number 7, Boston. They're 30-27. 4th fewest road wins since December 1st. The Boston Celtics, 4th fewest road wins since December 1st. No Rondo. Their age is going to catch up to him. Number 6, Chicago, 32-25. 4-8 in February. Really need Derrick Rose back. Chicago, I mean, listen, they've done a tremendous job without Rose, but they are starting to fall back. Here's a stat. Check out the shooting stats against Oklahoma City. Chicago got blown out by Oklahoma City a few nights ago. Chicago shot 25 for 86 from the floor in that game. Do the math. Number 5, you have Brooklyn. They are 34-24. Joe Johnson banged up. D. Williams is going to be banged up the rest of the year. You don't like that. The Nets have a good team, but they're going to have these two guys banged up the rest of the year. That's not a good sign. Number 4, Atlanta. They're 33-23. Josh Smith not traded, so he stays on the team. He's a really nice player. Here's who's been good for Atlanta. Horford has been very good this year. He missed most of last year with an injury. He has been outstanding. If you ever get a chance to see the Hawks, focus in on Horford, a really nice player. Number 3, the Knicks. They are 34-20. They do beat Golden State last night. I don't like what I see recently from the Knicks. They were playing at such a high level early in the year. They lose Rasheed Wallace now for the rest of the year into the playoffs. I mean, I don't want to pick on the Knicks because they are 3rd in the conference. They are 34-20. They are coming off a win. Not playing quite like they were in the beginning of the season. Number 2, Indiana. They are 36-21, and they are flying. They are blowing teams out. Granger is back. Indiana is flying. Now, Hibbert will be suspended the next game for 1 game because of his incident the other night. But Indiana is absolutely flying. Indiana gave Miami all they could handle last year in the playoffs. Indiana is a very good team. Number 1, Miami. They are 41-14. Best player, best team. LeBron James, we know he's the best player. You put him with Wade, and you put him with Bosh and Allen. They play defense. They don't have a lot of size, but they overcome that. Miami, best team when they bring their A game. So that is kind of where you are in your NBA State of the Union. We still got a little ways to go to the NBA till we get to the playoffs. Now, as far as tonight through the weekend, what to watch, my next show will be Monday. So I'm going to give you some games to keep an eye on, in the NBA, NHL, college basketball. I'm not going to give you the whole schedule, just some games to keep an eye on, some honorable mention games. Let's start with the NBA. Let's start tonight. Clippers at Indiana tonight. Very nice game. Now, Hibbert is suspended for this game for Indiana. We'll keep an eye on that. But Clippers at Indiana tonight. Very nice NBA game. Friday, Oklahoma City at Denver. Tremendous game. Golden State at Boston. Nice game. Saturday, Brooklyn at Chicago. Interesting game. Sunday, really tasty games. Miami at the Knicks. The Knicks have beat them twice this year. Knicks think they can tangle with Miami, so we'll keep an eye on that game Sunday. Oklahoma City at the Clippers. Tremendous game on Sunday. And Atlanta at the Lakers. Lakers fighting for that bottom spot. Over to your NHL we go. Tonight you have Ottawa at Boston. Toronto at the Islanders. Tampa Bay at the Rangers. Rangers got to pick up their play. Need some healthy bodies back. Pitt at Carolina. Chicago at St. Louis. This is where Chicago's win streak could end, in St. Louis tonight. Detroit at San Jose. Friday, not much going on in the NHL. Saturday, Pittsburgh at Montreal, top two teams in the East. LA at Vancouver. Ottawa at Philadelphia. And Sunday, Chicago at Detroit. If Chicago gets by St. Louis tonight, they go to Detroit on Sunday. Chicago's win streak has to come to an end soon. I think it's coming to an end the next couple of games. Montreal at Boston on Sunday. What a tasty game that is. Over to your college basketball tonight. Okay, I know some of you are not going to think this is a big game. Gonzaga at BYU tonight. Watch the game. If Gonzaga wins 2 games this week, they go to #1 for the first time in their history, and BYU is on the bubble. Should have a huge crowd in BYU tonight. Should be a frenzied atmosphere where potentially #1 Gonzaga goes to BYU tonight. BYU on the bubble. They need a quality win. What better way to do it than to knock off Gonzaga at home? Must watch tonight, Gonzaga at BYU. Friday, not much going on in college basketball. That's usually your Ivy League. Saturday, a lot of games, a lot of important games. Kentucky at Arkansas. Both of those teams are on the bubble. Notre Dame at Marquette. Butler at VCU. Arizona at UCLA. Very nice rivalry game. Kansas State at Baylor. Baylor on the bubble. Louisville, Syracuse in the Dome. Very nice game. Alabama at Florida. Alabama is in deep trouble. And Iowa at Indiana. We'll see how Indiana rebounds off their loss. And here's a must-watch Saturday. Miami at Duke. Remember, Miami blasted Duke down in South Florida this year. That's one of the few games where Duke didn't bring their effort. They got just blown out, didn't show any spirit. You're so used to Coach K's fighting you tooth and nail every game. Miami dusted them in South Florida. Duke looked like a dead carcass down there. We'll see if Duke rebounds in the revenge game here in Durham. Still no Kelly for Duke, but he should be back soon. But that's a very nice game. Miami at Duke on Saturday. And Sunday, Villanova at Pitt. Villanova needs it. And here's a must-watch on Sunday. Michigan State at Michigan. Big rivalry game in Ann Arbor. Michigan coming off the bad loss to Penn State. Tremendous rivalry game there. Those two teams will be going at it. So you have some interesting games this week in both NBA, NHL, and college basketball. Tonight, I would really focus in on that Gonzaga-BYU game. You have the Clippers in Indiana tonight in your NBA, which is a really nice game. And you got some stuff in the NHL. Chicago-St. Louis. Chicago has that long winning streak. Those would be the 3 games I'd focus on. College basketball, Gonzaga-BYU, NBA Clippers at Indiana, and NHL Chicago at St. Louis. Those are some tasty games tonight. I hope you guys enjoy them. You guys, thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you Monday. Have a nice weekend. Stay safe. Talk to you Monday. Enjoy the games tonight. Take care.